This video is going to be all about seventh chords. We're going to talk about what a seventh chord is. We're going to talk about how to build one. We're going to talk about all the different kinds of seventh chords there are. We're going to talk about what they're called. And then later we're going to talk about what the notation is for seventh chords, so you'll recognize them when you see them on a chord chart or on a website when you're looking up chords. So remember when we learned about triads, and we learned that chords are built by stacking thirds. And when we first built all our triads, this is what we did. We had two slots for thirds, and we had two choices for thirds. There's minor thirds and major thirds. And so with two slots and two choices per slot, 2 times 2 is 4. So we ended up with 4 different kinds of triads. Well, we're going to do the same thing for seventh chords, but in this case, we have 3 slots. We have a slot for our first third, for our second third, and for our third third. And so there are going to be 2 times 2 times 2, 8 different possibilities of combination, or I should just say 8 different combinations of seventh chords. And so let's look at this little box right here. So what we've got here, we've got a minor third plus a minor third, and then the third third we're adding on top. We're going to choose either a minor third or major third. The exercise we're about to do is we're going to say, all right, from this note going up a minor third, what note do we get to? And from this note going up a major third, what note do we get to? And so on until we fill out this entire table. And whatever note we put in this section, we're going to call that the seventh. Okay, so we have the root, we have the third, we have the fifth, and then every one of these chords is going to have a seventh, and that is why they're called seventh chords. Before I go any further, I want to point out that this minor third plus minor third, this should look familiar by now. What this is a diminished chord, or pardon me, it's a diminished triad. And so all we're doing is we're tacking on either a minor third or a major third to a base that is a diminished triad. And here we're doing the same thing, but the base is a minor triad. Here the base is a major triad. Here the base is an augmented triad. And so I've gone ahead and written that out already. We have the base of a C diminished triad plus a minor third, a C diminished triad plus a major third, C minor triad plus a minor third, C minor triad plus a major third, and so on through the major and augmented triads as well. So let's go. Oh, and what we're going to do is once we put all these notes in, then we're going to go through and I'm going to just tell you what all of these are called. So let's begin. Starting from this note, let's add a minor third, and a minor third is 3 half steps. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, and that is A. Okay. Now from the same note, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. That is a major third, and that note is B flat. Okay. Now from this note, we're going to go a minor third, 1, 2, 3. That's B flat. And from the same note, 1, 2, 3, 4. That is a B. All right. So same note, we're going to end up with the same pattern. Plus a minor third is B flat, plus a major third is B. And here we have G sharp, the sharp fifth, because we've started with a base of major third, which is the same thing as a C augmented triad. Plus now let's go a minor third over 1, 2, 3. That's a B. Plus a minor third over, that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a C. All right. So let's call this something. This chord, a minor third plus a minor third plus a minor third, which is the same thing as a C diminished triad plus a minor third. This chord is called a fully diminished seventh chord. And let's look at this one. So we have a diminished triad plus a major third, and we have the notes C, E flat, G flat, and B flat. This chord is going to be called a half diminished seventh. We have a fully diminished seventh, and a half diminished seventh. Fully diminished because all three thirds are minor. Half diminished just means that we've got minor, third, and then you got a major third. All right, next. C minor triad plus a minor third is going to give us the notes C, E flat, G, and B flat, and that is called a minor seventh. Okay, next. Nothing fancy here, just minor seventh chord. C minor triad plus a major third gives us C, E flat, G, and B. And this note, this chord, is going to be called a minor major seventh chord. Let me just quickly say, remember how after we did all of our triad exercise, we talked about how some of these chords are very common and some of these chords are not very common. A minor triad and a major triad are two of the most common chords used in all kinds of music, mostly Western music. Diminished triads are used sometimes, and augmented triads are probably the rarest of all of these four. The same is going to be true for the seventh chords, and it turns out that so far, like minor seventh is used pretty often. Minor major seventh is really not used very often at all unless you're really doing like heavy jazz. Fully diminished seventh, those are pretty useful and they show up. Half diminished, those also show up. Okay, we're about to come to two more very, very common popular seventh chords. The C major triad plus a minor third gives us the notes C, E, G, B flat, and this is called the dominant seventh. Very common kind of seven chord. And the C major triad plus a major third, C, E, G, and B, this is going to be called a major seventh. Conveniently, in the minor seventh, the first third is minor and the third third is minor. In the major seventh, the first third is major, pardon me, the first third is major and the third third is major. We're going to come back to these three very common seventh chords in a little bit when we talk about diatonic seventh chords, but for now, let's keep filling this out. C augmented chord plus a minor third is going to give us C, E, G sharp, and B, and that's going to be called an augmented seventh. And here we come to kind of a funny situation, which is we have C, E, G sharp, and then C again. Well, that's kind of interesting. We have a repeated note, and that should kind of make sense because remember, a major third is 4 half steps, and an octave is 12 half steps. 3 major thirds is just 12 half steps, which is the same thing as an octave. And so this is actually, we don't really talk about this one as a seventh chord at all because of these repeated notes. And so you can kind of just like not even deal with this. We're not going to call that anything because it's just basically the triad, but you repeated a note. So yes, there were 8 possibilities, but the 8th and final possibility is in fact not a seventh chord because it doesn't add any new notes to the mixture. So here we have the 7 seventh chords that you kind of ever use. Now what we're going to do is, now that we know all of the notes in all the seventh chords, we can define each of their chord tones in relationship to the C major scale. And we already know them for all of the bass triads. And so I'm going to be interested in what do we call these. And it's going to be a very simple exercise. We already basically did it for the triads. We're just expanding it to the realm of the seventh. And so let's begin. We already have the C is the 1, E flat is the flat 3, G flat is the 5. Pardon me, that should be the flat 5 because we know from our previous work with diminished triads that that's true. And there it is, flat 5. The A is, here we're about to run into the first and really kind of the only snag that we're going to run into when it comes to the realm of sevenths. We would be right to call this the 6. However, we're not going to do that because we are in the realm of sevenths, and so I want the number 7 to go here just because that's what we're defining it as. And it's not just me, this is a real music thing. So we're going to call this a 7th, but the question is what kind of a 7th in it? It is a double flat 7th. OMG, are you allowed to do that? You can have a double flat? The answer is yes, you absolutely can. The 7th of a scale is over here, 1 flat, 2 flat. If you were going crazy, you could go 3 flat or 4 flat. All the word flat means is go 1 down. And so you can have a double flat, a triple flat, quintuple flat. Quintuple flat would just be dumb, but you kind of don't ever see more than a double flat in music, but hey, go nuts if you like to. So here we have the A is a double flat 7, and the 1 flat 3, flat 5, double flat 7, that is how we define a fully diminished 7th. Next, looks like I made the same mistake here. We have the 1, the flat 3, the flat 5, and what is this going to be called? Well, it's just a normal flat 7. And what about for our minor 7th? Minor 7th is built with a 1, a flat 3, a normal 5, and then this is going to be a flat 7. Our minor major 7 is going to be true to its name. We have a 1, a flat 3, which corresponds to the minor 3, of normal 5, and then a normal 7, which corresponds to the 7 of the major scale. So we have the minor 3, we have the major 7th, and that's why it gets its name minor major 7th. Next, we have the dominant 7th. The dominant 7th, and it's built on a major triad, 1, 3, 5, and then it has a flat 7. Okay? Now, the major 7th is going to have a 1, a 3, a 5, and then a normal 7. And look here, this is the first and only 7th chord that actually lines up perfectly with the notes in the major scale, and that is as it should be, isn't it? We have in the C major scale. In the next video we're going to talk about diatonic 7th chords, and the very first chord in the C major scale, the very first 7th chord, is a C major 7, and it's going to have the following notes: 1, 3, 5, and 7. All right, last but not least, let's look at our augmented 7th, and we're going to have a 1, a 3, a sharp 5, and a normal 7. So now that we have this beautiful table with all of the possible 7th chords that begin on the note C, or another way to say that is that all of these 7th chords have the root note of C, because music is a formula, you can construct a general table, just like we've done for everything else, using only numbers for all the other possible 7th chords. And guess what? I've already done it, and here it is. You've got fully diminished 7ths, half diminished 7ths, minor 7ths, minor major 7th, dominant 7th, major 7th, and augmented 7th chords. And, whoops, let's just make that nice and pretty. There you go. And so this is it. I've just copied and pasted, like, the fully diminished 7th has the numbers 1, flat 3, flat 5, double flat 7, and so here they are: 1, flat 3, flat 5, double flat 7. Here's what I recommend you do right now, before you do anything else. You should take this general case, and then let's line it up to A, and fill out this table for all the 7th chords that begin on A. So all the 7th chords that have a root of A, you can construct a table just like this one. This one is in C, has the root note C. Construct this table for yourself for all the 7th chords that have the root note A. Or, you know what, pick another note, but A is a good one. In fact, to make that exercise easier for you, I've created another table right here for your amusement and for your homework. I'm not going to fill it out in this video. I'm just going to leave it blank. If you can pause the video and just go ahead and write out all the notes Here's you got your A major scale written out for you. You've got the triads you're starting with. You've got the name of the seventh chord. You've got your first third, second third, and third third, and there you go. So now, really truly, off you go.